Are you looking for a book for that special child in your life this holiday season? Well, look no further than a wonderful book written by Fay Nelson. It'll teach your children about respect for nature and respect for the environment and respect for this beautiful land that we all love. It is called Five Wallabies and One Dog Night. It's a terrific tale, and we are delighted to have Fay Nelson on the spotlight today. Fay, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Loved your book. Tell the audience what it's all about.
It's all about the way that I was brought up to respect everything, every living thing on our earth. I was raised by my grandmother. I was given to her because that's our Aboriginal policy, is that grandma must have a child to look after, and Granny got me, poor Granny. But she taught me about my culture, or our culture. My proper name is Paper Bowl, which you'll see on my book. But when I went to school, white kids didn't understand Aboriginal stuff when they used to torment me, so I used to punch them over. But it's about the beautiful nature, environment, cultural loving that Aboriginal people had for the earth, because Granny insisted that we never killed, and Dad insisted that we never killed animals unless we wanted them for food. And so animals could roam free around our place. And we taught our dogs as well that the hunting dogs would only hunt on command, and otherwise they would leave the animals alone. So Five Wallabies and One Dog Night, for me, I had my own farm. Now I had 3 dogs and 1 cat. And there are many stories in Australia about little children wandering off from their home and getting lost, and then, having to be found, if alive, hopefully. And sometimes, it happens. And I thought, well, I can tell them about how close I was to my dogs, because we used to have dogs all the time. And I used to sleep with my dogs because we were poor Aboriginal people. We never had beds or blankets or anything like that. If we had a blanket, we'd put it down and lay down on it, and then Puppy Dog would come and lay down with us to keep us warm in wintertime, or they would sleep near us in summer. And it was a loving relationship that we had. And I decided that in order to help non-Aboriginal people to understand our culture a little bit better, I'd write about how they could teach their children to be friendly with animals, native animals, and to respect them, because those animals have been living on this continent as long as Aboriginal people have, and they are our totems, etc. And when white people arrived, they sort of disrespected them. In fact, they killed them because they needed their farms and they needed the money from their farms. But for Aboriginal people, we lived with them. We shared food with them. We didn't take all the fruit off the tree. We didn't dig all of the root vegetables out of the ground, because bandicoots and other animals could do that. So I wanted people to know that there was this close relationship that they can build themselves with the animals of our country. And Mr. Crawford, I'm really upset that we have the floods that we have now, and people are losing their homes, and animals are being killed by rising flood waters and unable to escape. And I'm also upset about the major fires that we had. So teaching people to know and understand that the relationship they have now with Australian native animals is flawed, and they need to teach their children to understand and respect country and animals in our country.
Absolutely. And by educating the children, you're educating the future generations and you're
Yes.
bringing about change in the world. And I think that's beautiful. A lot of people don't realize the origins of the phrase three dog night, for example, or five wallaby and one dog night. It means it's cold. And those
It's called.
dogs or wallabies are sleeping with you. I don't know if you really want a wallaby sleeping with you. I'm not that familiar with the animal, though.
The wallabies, they live in country, of course. And when I say country, I mean my homeland or where I am at the moment. But they live there and they usually stay by themselves. But they do communicate. And as you probably read in my book, we asked when we were searching for Bona, the baby, we asked the animals and the birds, have you seen Bona? And the dogs, barked, and Bungie had his nose down and was wriggling it all the time, following her trail. So we have a communication with these animals as well, because a lot of them are the totems of Aboriginal people. And I'm still an active totem person. I believe in my mother being a willy wagtail, a little black and white bird. My father is a red kangaroo. I've got children and great-grandchildren, and great-grandchildren, children and grandchildren whose totems I paint and tell the stories of those things. So they're very important and precious. And I would like to do the same thing for non-Aboriginal people, that they can respect our country and all of the animals that share with us.
Absolutely. Do
Five
you think
dog
the
wallabies.
situation's getting better there in Australia, that people are understanding the Aboriginals better and that the culture gap and the communication gap is fading a little bit?
Perhaps it is. We're in the middle of a political thing, which I won't go into at the moment, but there is a political party who don't want Aboriginal people's voices to be heard. So you might think that some parts of the country is getting better, but other parts are terrible. And the racism is still very prevalent. I experience racism here in the town that I live in Wollongong,
Mm,
on a daily basis. When I go down to the street, for instance, there are people that just look at me and say to themselves,
awful.
an abo. It's
Crazy.
their
Well,
word for
there's
it.
always a horrible section of society, unfortunately. You're certainly a productive member of society, and the books you've written are just joyous, and they're beautifully illustrated as well. Did you collaborate with an artist? Tell me a little bit about that.
No, Mr. Crawford, I am totally untrained. I've had to sit down and do it myself. In the 1970s, I began marketing Aboriginal art and craft to the wide world, and Americans were actually one of our best customers, along with Japan. So Aboriginal Arts and Crafts Proprietary Limited started in 1975, and the way that we talk about country is very, very important. So paintings and ceremonies to increase animals and communication with each other. We had our own country. Aboriginal people had their own area of land that we call our country. And we had our own spirits. We believe that the forest is full of spirits. And that's one of the things that I've put in my book, that bush spirits came to help Bona, and Bungie and all of the other animals that were helping pull her out of the water. And people kind of think that they're fairy tales, but they're not. They're realities.
Right, right. Well, they're wonderful books. This one in particular is great. You actually have about six books, I believe, in print, correct?
Not in print, but I've got two in print. And
Two
the
in
other
print.
one is all about saving the Great Barrier Reef,
I
because
see.
my homeland is an island. It's Hinchinbrook Island, and it sits off the coast of North Queensland. And the coral reef is part of the ocean. And I wrote, "We need help, help us, please," because people are just so careless and grubby. If they go out, they just drop their rubbish on the ground. Some of them actually throw plastics on the ground and they're washed into the rivers or the lakes. and then the plastic hardens and breaks up into little bits and pieces, and the birds and animals eat them. So we need help us please is a plea to people who live in Australia, to be able to pick up their rubbish and take it home with them, not throw it on the ground so it washes into the ocean. And the poisons that are there as well, Mr. Crawford, people just spray poisons in their garden, to kill the weeds or whatever. It's all about saving country, and it's all about saving the oceans around our country.
Well, you're doing a great part. Like I said, educating children is like changing the future, because if you enlighten their minds, hopefully things will be different down the road. The name of the book is called 5 Wallabies and 1 Dog Night. It's a delightful story that will help your children learn about different cultures, learn about animals, and learn about protecting and preserving our fragile planet. It is written by Fay Nelson, and we were delighted to have her here today as a guest on Spotlight. Fay, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you, Mr. Crawford.
Thank you. And what's that?
Yeah, I said bye-bye.
Bye-bye. I enjoyed talking to you. To the folks at home, I'm Logan Crawford, thanking you for your time this time. Until next time on Spotlight.